Hello everyone, welcome to Zarev Game Dev. In the last video, we created the settings for selecting all of our stages. In this video, we are going to add a basic audio manager to the game. So it just has one audio source, and whenever we click, there's like almost half a second delay. So we don't need to instantiate different audio sources, so it's just going to have one audio source. So it's going to be again pretty simple. We'll create a manager which is going to hold our audio source and the audio manager script. If you want different audio mixings, we will create different audio sources, but for now we are just going to use the one audio source which is going to have a half size, and on this audio source we'll create an audio manager script. So let's create a hash script and we'll call it audio manager, and we'll attach this audio manager script to our game object. So that's it, and after that everything else is going to be inside the coding. So we have already coded the audio manager a couple of times, so this one is simpler before what we have created, so that's why I'm creating it again, or else I'll just copy paste from previous any of the games. So they have music, sound, and you can get pretty complicated, like using different sounds and mixing them. So we are just going to use the same audio source all over the game, and the sounds are pretty short, almost 100 to 200 to 300 milliseconds, so it won't matter much. Now, inside our audio manager, what we are going to do is first we'll create a public static audio manager instance, and inside our awake, we'll first check if instance is equals to null, then we'll set the instance to be this, and we won't don't want it to be destroy and load our current game object, else we'll directly destroy the game object. And after that, we also need to return it because destroy works on the next frame. And here what we are going to do is player prefs dot setInt, and we are going to set the integer for constants dot data dot setting sound to be a value. So what value it's going to be? We need to create a variable, or maybe a field and whatever you want. So first we'll create an audio source reference, which is going to be our current effect source, and we are also going to add a couple of button components. So we'll need to use using unity engine dot ui. So it's also going to need an audio clip, and we'll just call it click sound. And inside our to get if our sound is muted, first we'll create let's just create a private boolean which is going to be is sound muted, and we'll create a public field which is going to be capital S sound muted. So this is sound muted is going to store the variable inside our audio manager script, and this is sound muted is going to return and set our both of the scripts. So we'll check is sound muted is going to be player prefs dot has key, and we are going to check for constants dot data dot setting sound. So if it has the key, then we'll use player prefs dot getInt constants dot data dot setting sound, and it's going to be muted if it is going to be set to 0, else what we are going to do is we don't want it to be muted at the beginning. Or we could directly use 1 and we'll check if it is equal to 0. So if it is 1, that means it's not muted. Default it will be set to 1 and we'll return is sound muted. Now in the set, we'll set our sound muted to be value and we'll set the player prefs dot setint constants dot data dot setting sounds to be our is sound muted variable, and we need to check if it is 0. Is sound muted. Okay, so if our sound is muted, then we'll set it to 0, else we'll set it to 1. So is sound muted is going to store all of our settings for our if our sound is muted. So let's get is sound muted. So whenever we want, we'll get our sound muted and either it's going to be 0 or 1. So whenever we are going to get the is sound muted, it will get it and return it and set up our variables. So after that, we'll do at source dot mute is going to be is sound muted. And after we need to create a function to add the button sounds. So add button sounds, and inside we are not going to pass any parameter. It will just get all of our buttons. It's going to be find objects of type all. Maybe just find objects of type. Yeah, let's just use find objects of type, get a list of all loaded objects of type deprecated. So of type, we need to set the type to button, and inside our parameter will pass true. So it also needs to get the inactive objects, and for int I is equals to 0, I less than buttons dot length, will add a listener to each of the buttons. So buttons of I dot on click dot add listener, and what we are going to add is just play our sound, which is going to be created as one more function. So it's going to be public void play sound, and here we'll pass an audio clip, and let's just call it clip, and we'll do effect source dot play one shot, and we are going to play the clip. So it's going to play our sound, and we'll just call the play sound, and we'll pass our click sound. So it will play our current sound, and inside our public void toggle sound, we'll just set effect source dot mute is going to be is sound muted. So it will automatically set it up. So that was it for our audio manager. Now inside our main menu manager, where we created a functionality for toggling our sound, we'll create a function for it. So let's call it public void toggle sound, and at the end of the function it will call audio manager dot instance dot the toggle sound function. And before that, what it's going to do is bool sound is going to be player prefs dot getInt, and we are going to get the constants.data.sound, and after getting it we'll check if it is 0. So if it is 0, that means it is false and we need to set it to true. So player prefs dot setint, and we'll set constants dot data dot setting sound to be, if our sound is deactivated then we need to activate it and set it to 1, and if our sound is activated we need to deactivate and set it to 0. And we'll do sound active image dot set active. So if it was deactivated, then we need to activate it and deactivate our sound image. So it's just going to use not sound, and it's just going to be that simple. And we have all our references, so when we go inside Unity we should be able to hear our click sound. So let's add our audio source and let's add our click sound. And inside our sound, we need to add a button component, and it's going to call our click, which is going to be our toggle sound. So if we hit play and we check our sound is active or inactive, so the sound is working but our play is not working. So what is happening? So inside our audio manager, play on awake, let's set it to off, loop it's also set to off. And we didn't add the button sound. So inside our audio manager, when the inside, where is it? Inside our main menu manager, when our object is instantiated, we need to add all our button sounds. So audio manager dot instance dot add button sound, and we will add it on enable. So yeah, it should be good. Let's just add it on enable. So it's going to add our button sounds and we should be able to hear all of our clicks. So let's hit play, and currently it's deactivated, and now it's activated, now it's deactivated, now it's activated. So our sound has a click. So whenever we click any of our objects, we are going to hit the click sound. And after that, whenever we want to play any sound, we'll just call the audio manager dot play sound, and we'll pass whatever sound we need to play. And as it has only one audio source, it's going to only play one sound at a time. So make sure none of your uh, conflicting sounds collide, or you'd have to use a different method. But for this game, all we are using are simple clicks and swaps, and they are going to be similar. And at the end of all of the sound time, it's going to play animation, so only one sound is going to be active at a time. So this audio manager is pretty much good enough if you want to have just one type of sound playing. If you want to have different sound of type of sound playing, just either use uh, one more music source which we created in the previous videos, or you can set a reference to have a list of audio sources and instantiate at runtime, and whenever each of the audio source finished, collect them and stored it in an inactive game object. Or there are too many different options, so this one is going to be the easiest for this game. Just add an audio source and set it to active or deactive depending on the value we have stored inside our player prefs. So in the next video, we are going to create the levels for our game. So again, it's going to be similar to the stages. So see you guys in the next video.